Good morning and welcome to New Day Northwest. You wouldn't think the words Steve Jobs, iPhone, and opera would necessarily go hand in hand, but an opera based on the life of Apple co-founder earned 4 Grammy nominations and won 1 at the recent Grammy Awards. The show just made its West Coast premiere at Seattle Opera, and here now with a look at the revolution of Steve Jobs, please welcome John Moore.
Music. Bach instruments. These machines could be something we play. Something we play, like a violin or a guitar. All music is merely mathematics, merely math. But when we hear music, really listen, we think of God. We think of sunsets, we think of life, we think of death, we think of great sex. More than think, we feel. These machines can be the same way. Something that doesn't play us, but something we play. Like a French horn, or what's that you read? The oboe. Instruments, musical instruments. They are all valves, wires, pedals, pegs, keys. But when we connect to them, connect, they become something we play. Something we play. Something we bang, hit, blow. Something we trill, hum, studum. Something we play.
Woo! Come on over. How wonderful. Oh my gosh, you filled up this room with your voice. It's so good to see you.
Cheers.
Have a seat.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
I was thinking about Steve Jobs' opera, but you know, his life was so operatic in its scope and in what he did with it and the things that happened to him. I guess it does make some sense, right?
It makes perfect sense. And I think of any of the individuals that we've lost in, say, the 21st century, I think a treatment of Steve Jobs is probably the most apt. I think he's done more for our common humanity and the 21st century than anyone else. And
certainly changed our lives, right?
Certainly, absolutely.
Changed our lives. So how did this opera come about? Who decided this was going to happen?
I believe Mason Bates, the composer, and the librettist, Mark Campbell, got together and said, you know, what's the best treatment we can do for an opera? Mason, it was his first opera. Yeah. Mark has quite a career in opera composition and writing, the libretto. And that team really created something special. I think Mark's certainly Mark's experience in writing for opera and Mason's innate talent. He has written for other mediums, but this is his first opera, and to have 4 Grammy nominations and a win
is pretty cool.
First time out, it's not bad.
That's pretty exciting. Is there a particular time of Jobs' life that the story concentrates on?
It actually starts from the beginning. We begin in the garage with his dad and young Steve.
We're seeing some video production
and
right now.
All the way through. I think anyone that's even remotely familiar with Steve Jobs as a human that's been alive you know, for let's say 30 years will definitely relate to several of the episodes within the opera.
Did you learn new things about him?
You know, as I began preparing, I didn't actually get into the Isaacson because I didn't want it to necessarily override what was in the score. You know, this is a drama based on fact, but it's a dramatization. So I like to serve the score first, and not necessarily Walter Isaacson's take on Steve, or even the actual events, because that can color sort of how I go about it. That said, I've been spending the last several days since we've opened taking in the audio of the book, and I'm pleased because I think we got it right, and I think there's a lot more to Steve than what the headlines would say. You know, he was a human being that knew love, and certainly lots of disappointment. And one of the things that's really struck me, he liked to bite his fingernails, and he cried a lot.
Wow.
So he would cry in front of the board. He would cry certainly in front of his wife. So, you know, there's this sense that he maybe was a person that was void of, you know, empathy.
Right. We saw him as an icon, and that automatically separates you, right, from just common humanity. So to learn these other things about him is
and I think
cool.
it definitely, you know, I've got the watch on, and the phone I didn't bring in, but I've got that on me, and I've said to people, you know, we wake up in the morning and check our phones before we kiss our spouse.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a bad thing ultimately, but I also think that he wanted those intimate tools that we would use in our lives to be beautiful and to have meaning. I think his vision was to give us an opportunity to expand our experience of the human condition, and that's why, as an opera, he's the best person to raise up, because I think he's given us all an opportunity to learn more about what it is to be ourselves and to be better to the people around us.
Well, and what he made was a tool. How we use it is up to us.
Yeah.
Which is a whole separate conversation, probably. Are you sick of turtlenecks?
I'm not, and you know, it's funny. I tend to have a muted palate, and as far as what I wear, and I love turtlenecks. I come from the Midwest in Minnesota, so I actually own turtlenecks, and I as a vocalist, it's nice to have your larynx covered up.
It's nice and warm.
Yeah. So this is sort of normal wear, but and I'm not. You know, I think I'm in my mid-30s, and I really respect that. You know, I don't have a closet full of clothes. I'm sort of paring down, and he was a minimalist. And actually, as I've taken on the part and learned more about him, I think there's so much value in it. And you'll see in the opera, you'll see that aesthetic on stage, these huge monolith screens sort of running lots of images. But as far as the set's concerned, like the only pieces that are in it actually look a lot like what you would see in an Apple store.
Interesting.
And Mason and Mark gave us a score that really just allows us to speak to the humanity of Steve and obviously the biography. But I'm excited for people to come and be moved by the minimalism of it all.
That is very cool. Yeah. And I do think, I mean, he did say that he did that to free his brain up for more important decision making.
Absolutely.
Which makes great sense to me. I'm into that.
Yes, for
sure. If we can figure out what the female version is, I'm down. Thank you so much. Seattle Opera's production of The Revolution of Steve Jobs is playing through March 9th at McCaw Hall. You can find ticket information on our website. Excuse me. But today we are giving away a pair of tickets to one viewer at home. All you have to do to win is go to New Day's Facebook page and look for the pinned post at the top, comment below that post, and that's it. Good luck. When we come back, convenient new passenger options take flight out of Painfield and Everett starting next week on Monday. In fact, which airlines, the destinations, and opportunities after this break.